Hi friends, I'm Lalmon and today let's talk about the various versions of coronavirus vaccines available in the market and how are they different. But before that, first let's understand how does the coronavirus infection, how does our body respond to that. We all know that the coronavirus typically infects our respiratory system. It infects our throat, and that's where we get throat pain. Then it will infect our lungs, and lungs it can lead to pneumonia. And if pneumonia happens, your lung capacity will get reduced, your oxygen saturation will go down, and this will have multiple cascading impact on your vital organs. Okay, so but in normal scenario, in a normal healthy person, if a coronavirus attacks, it attaches to our body using the spike protein. So the spike protein is the first antigen our immune system will notice. The moment it reaches our body, our B lymphocyte will try to produce the antibodies corresponding to this spike protein. And this could take a couple of days, and thereafter it start fighting vigorously, and that's where you feel high temperature, and probably in a week's time you will get relieved of these COVID symptoms and you will be back to normal. This is the case of a healthy person. However, in case of a weak person, when I say weak, it could be either his immunity could be weak for whatever reason, or it could be his vital organs could be weak. In either case, it can lead to fatality. All right, so now let's understand how does it work. So primarily, as I said, this infects your lungs, and the lungs, if it reaches to a pneumonia, this can lead to lots of fuzz and fluid in your lungs, which will in turn reduce your lung capacity. So this will lead to less oxygen saturation in your blood, right? So here I just want to pause and would like to recommend you guys on an oxygen cylinder. Try to grab an oxygen cylinder, and trust me, it's worth an investment. Because if imagine your lungs capacity reduced to half, or even one fourth, or even one fifth, still you can survive if you have a oxygen handy at your house. How? Please understand, your oxygen, the breathe, the air you breathe in has hardly 20% of oxygen. Remaining 80% is either nitrogen and other gases. So if you supply 100% oxygen instead of 20%, that means you are giving five-fold increase in concentration, oxygen concentration, right? So if your lung capacity reduced by five-fold, this can be compensated by giving five-fold increase in higher oxygen concentration. That's where the oxygen can save you. Hope you understood it, right? All right. So now imagine the oxygen. You don't have the oxygen right now, and your lung capacity reduced. This led to the reduction in oxygen concentration, or the oxygen saturation reduced below 90. This will trigger a panic button by the brain, and which will indirectly call for help from the heart. Heart will be asked to compensate it by pumping more blood. So heart has to pump fast and furious. This will definitely put more pressure on the heart, particularly the mitral valve. And this can have various impact on the heart. It can change the rhythm. It can alter the electrochemical imbalances in the myocardium. It can impact your polarization and depolarization potential, and it can ultimately collapse. So that's one way the COVID may complications. The other way, again, is kidney. Again, the same. When the oxygen saturation goes down, the it warrants for a higher BP, and kidney will start producing renin and angiotensin 2. This will invariably induce the afferent and efferent constriction. It can put more pressure on the Bowman's capsule. And it can have other impact, like it will definitely going to impact the reabsorption in the convoluted tube. So overall, the nephron will be in stress, and it can reduce your GFR rate. And if you look at now, um, the serum creatinine level, you can say multifold increase in that. So eventually this will lead to the kidney failure and fatality. All right. So that's typically happens in the coronavirus attack. And so all what we need to protect is we need the antibodies. Antibodies is nothing but a weapon, a gun in your hand. So the whole funda behind the vaccine is to produce the antibody, the weapon handy the time when you get infected by the virus. If it is infected right now, if you have the antibodies readily available, you can shoot down the virus on the entry point and save yourself. Okay, so that's how the vaccine funda. And now let's look at the various vaccine options available and what are the differences. The first category is a very traditional way of vaccine manufacturing, that is, use the real coronavirus and deactivated virus or a half-killed virus which will get injected into our body, and this will trigger, once it reaches our body, it will trigger immune response. Our B cells, B lymphocytes will start producing a corresponding antibody for this spike protein and others. So we are readily prepared with our antibodies with these kind of vaccines. So example of this kind of traditional vaccine is covaxine by Bharat Biotech, sinovac by Chinese manufacturer. Okay. Now the second type of antivirus is, the vaccine is by Oxford and team and various other manufacturers. The type is called viral vector. So the viral vector is a semi-synthetic vaccine. In this case, instead of exogenous antigen being injected, we create the genetic code of this spike protein in lab, and that will be embedded inside a adenovirus. Adenovirus is typically a harmless virus, so it doesn't infect us. So this is used as a medium to transport the spike protein genetic code inside the cell. Once it reaches the cell, it travels from the cytoplasm to the nucleus. It penetrates through nucleus, and inside that it connects to the interacts with the DNA, and there kickstarts the transcription process. Transcription process will end up in creating a template RNA and mRNA, and this mRNA will be remigrated back to the cytoplasm. There the final protein translation happens, and it will produce the spike protein. The moment the spike protein has been identified in the body, as usual, our lymphocytes, B cells will start producing the corresponding antibodies and prepare for the real attack next time. The example of this, as I said, this is the Oxford's covishield or sputnik from Russia, or Johnson&Johnson. Right. The third category is mRNA based. mRNA is primarily a fully synthetic, probably you can call. In this case, the scientists will prepare the mRNA of the spike protein inside the lab, and that will be embedded inside, not in a adenovirus. Rather, they use a tailor-made fatty molecule. In that they will embed, and that molecule will be injected to our body. Once it reaches our body, it enters the cytoplasm. Inside the cytoplasm, it start the translation and produce the spike protein. And as usual, the moment it produces the spike protein, our lymphocytes will produce the antibody and get prepared with the coronavirus attack for next time, right? So this is how these three different vaccines work. And now let's see the pros and cons of each of these vaccines. The first vaccine, the covishield, the Bharat Biotech's normal traditional vaccine, seems to have lesser efficiency. It has around 70 and above efficiency. However, this seems to be better in response because the antibody is exogenous. So the antigen is exogenous and antibody can be immediately triggered. So this is fast response. But another important thing is this kind of virus, this kind of vaccine will produce not just one antibody, rather it will produce multiple antibodies, which will be helpful in the future when a different mutated virus evolve, where if a alteration happened to your spike protein, even in that case this vaccine may be effective, right? So that's a good thing about this vaccine. This vaccine seems to be a little more expensive because this here they are dealing with the real world coronavirus, so they need to have a biosafety level 3 labs for this. So obviously this is pretty expensive. Now coming back to the next viral vector vaccine. In this case, you were dealing with only one antibody, okay, because it is directly targeted on the spike protein. And this vaccine has better efficiency compared to the previous one with around 90 and above efficiency. So this is pretty good against all of the current identified versions of viruses. All right, so that is Covishield or other viral vector vaccines in comparison. And these vaccines, both viral vector and the traditional one, doesn't need very low temperature, so storage and transportation could be easy in this case, right? Now the third category, mRNA, which is having the best efficiency with around 95% of efficiency. This has a tricky thing. This produces only one antibody that is against the spike protein. Okay, but currently this is pretty much effective, as I said, 70 and 95% effective, and this is quite good against all of the versions currently identified. One of the tricky thing is this needs very, very low temperature, particularly the Pfizer cryogenic temperature, and that could be a little more expensive in terms of storage and transportation. So otherwise all these vaccines are pretty good against current all identified versions of coronavirus. So I would suggest you all to make sure you are vaccinated with whichever vaccine is available next to your place, and make sure your family and you are protected. That's it. Thank you so much for watching my video, and we'll meet again with another interesting topic. Till then, goodbye.